Even with Theo's outstanding knowledge, if he is unable to produce passable results during the practical test, he will have difficulty graduating. Vince asks Theo about his current circle. Circles are a leveling system for magicians, with first being the lowest and ninth being the highest. However, achieving the ninth circle is a tale from ancient times. Theo says that he is barely at a second circle. Vince is disappointed that, despite attending the academy for 5 years, Theo hasn't mastered the second circle. This comment implies that Theo may be inadequate as a magician. Theo is already used to such remarks. He already knows everyone around him is mocking him for his lack of aptitude for magic. It seems that our protagonist has to possess an incredible amount of willpower to persevere for so long despite all the pity and mockery. Vince gives Theo an envelope. He says he is sorry for having to put our protagonist through this every single year, but this will be the last time. Vince seems to care about Theo in his own way. However, Theo thinks that Vince was never on his side. After the bitter talk, Theo leaves the room. Outside the lab, we see him clinging to the envelope as other students laugh at him behind his back, seemingly knowing what the letter implies. They appear pleased with the fact that Theo is just a loser in their eyes, and they stand above him. As he passes them by, he can feel and hear all the pity, mockery, fake sympathy, ridicule, contempt, and insults. All of them are relieved that he may finally be gone for good. While walking forward, Theo thinks to himself that he has walked this path for so long that he can't stop now, realizing that the starting point is already so far. He decides to fight his destiny no matter what and create a future for himself despite all the odds being stacked against him. The scene shifts to the library, a place where hardly anybody visits. In the Magic Academy, everybody finds knowledge to be useless, and magic aptitude and power are the only things that matter to them. Here, we find our protagonist, who is a regular in this library. He picks up a few books he is already familiar with. He has read them 1,000 times already, making it almost pointless to read them again since he already memorized them. But reading them gives him a sense of ease and peace in those hard times. During his regular routine, something particular catches his attention. It's a book he has never seen before, and since he knows the library by heart, it is an irregular sight to him. He approaches the book that is sticking out from the shelf. Right after he lays his finger on the book, it transforms into an unknown creature. The creature proceeds to swallow Theo whole. All we hear is a burst of ominous laughter, and we see our protagonist on the floor, seemingly unaffected by what just transpired. Unexpectedly, Theo hears a voice calling him and asking if he hears him. Theo thinks that he is losing it. The voice points him to look at his left hand. He does as the voice says. By doing so, he reveals a mysterious entity that has attached itself to him. The creature laughs and says that it seems he will survive. Theo, after witnessing this bizarre occurrence, screams in shock and terror. The creature explains and points out to Theo that it's too early to be surprised. As Theo tries to grasp what has just happened, the creature suddenly extends its tongue towards the pile of books that Theo has been reading previously and begins to eat them. Theo, in a desperate attempt to stop the creature, screams at it to stop and tries to pull the creature away from the books. As he does so, he stumbles and hits his head. At that moment, he felt a sensation that he tried to feel so many times, but just now the voice told him to stretch his hand. Finally, the feeling he has been yearning for so long has been subdued. As he stretches his hand, a lightning bolt comes out. Theo is in disbelief at what has happened. A notification pops up stating that the second circle lightning bolt has been acquired. The grimoire has awakened from a long slumber. It's extremely hungry. To satisfy its hunger, you must feed it books just like you did now. You have 10 minutes to ingest 4 more books. Startled by the abrupt voice he heard, Theo inquires about the message notification and its significance. He goes on to affirm that this cannot be a mere dream, as the pain in his arm is too real. The lightning bolt spell he had just cast was beyond his capabilities, for he had never before possessed any proficiency in magic. Even if he managed to use the spell, should it be so powerful as to know of a bookshelf? Theo realizes that with his hand that eats books, he finally has a chance. He quickly regains his composure and thinks about what the voice said to him. Coming to the conclusion that if he eats more books he will acquire skills from them, Theo asks the creature on his left hand about its name. The creature retorts that it will disclose this information to Theo provided he supplies it with more books. Should Theo fail to comply, he will face the dire consequence of being devoured by the creature. Theo answers that he will feed it as many books as it wants. As he fed the creature more books, he began to obtain more information from the mysterious voice. We learn that the creature is an ancient grimoire from the past. So far from the past that it has been already forgotten. The creature eats books and grows in power. The powers of the eaten objects is transferred to the user. If the user fails to feed the grimoire, he will be eaten by it. Theo says that he hears the general outline of the books in his head, and after that, he can remember the whole content of that book. The process takes some time to digest the books. Also, if the book quality is bad or too difficult for Theo to understand, then he will only gain a small benefit, if any at all. The notification pops up and the voice says, "The energy of the 4 elements digested, 3 more books needed." This notification signifies the compilation of the digestion process. Once Theo has digested the books, he will be able to utilize the acquired abilities. Theo started to devour the books until sundown, acquiring all the magic he wasn't able to before. He ingested the following: Basic Magic Circle Drawing, Applied Defense Magic, Basic Fire Bolt, Application and Comprehension of Elements, Advanced Lightning Bolt, Revelation. Consuming such a multitude of books in one go inflicts unimaginable pain, causing Theo to come close to losing consciousness. Grimoire's hunger has been satisfied and the magic contained within the books has been absorbed into the body. For 5 years, Theo was unable to sense the magic that now surges abundantly within his heart. The Grimoire is a picky eater. The Grimoire said that the books were terrible, but he is full now. Theo asks the creature again about his name. The Grimoire tells Theo that it's the only thing he wants to know, telling him to not act like he has no greed. The Grimoire says to call him Gluttony. Theo asks Gluttony if he can give him an answer. There were still questions on Theo's mind. All he knows till this point is that Gluttony is unstable, and in order to stabilize him he needs to be fed hundreds of books. It feels like Gluttony is a school assignment he needs to complete. When Gluttony is full, he falls asleep. Before it drifts into slumber with a yawn, the voice assures that Gluttony will respond to any question posed by the host, but only once. Given that Gluttony is an ancient grimoire, it likely has lived for a long time. It cannot be a falsehood that it will answer any of Theo's questions, albeit just once. Why are you hesitating? Gluttony questioned. If you had a question, you should ask now, before I fell asleep, Gluttony urges, noticing the sweat on Theo's face. With not much time available to ask a question, Theo contemplated his options. After some thought, he decided to begin with the most crucial question. He asked Gluttony about his identity. Gluttony spoke, expressing willingness to share, but questioned whether the Theo's intelligence, which they deemed narrow and superficial, could truly comprehend their words. Theo looked angrily at Gluttony. Gluttony finds Theo's behavior quite foolish. Well, in that case, Gluttony decided, I'll show some consideration, taking into account your level of intelligence. I'll provide a visual. Suddenly the room's atmosphere changes. A crack appears, from which tentacles emerge and grabbing Theo. A creature appears, coming closer towards Theo's head, proceeding to attach itself to his forehead. Suddenly the vision disappears and Theo falls on the ground. Gluttony laughingly explains that this is his limit. Assuming this answered his question, Gluttony stated he would see him next time. He still had a mountain of questions he wanted to ask. But the voice provided him with a brief explanation of all the information. First, Gluttony's form remains incomplete, and the voice serves as a guide that coexists with Gluttony. Second, Gluttony awakens once a day to satiate its hunger. After feeding, it responds to one question. Third, Gluttony comprehends the power held by its food and can discern more accurately than any other form of magic. Lastly, Gluttony extracts the essence of what it consumes and then delivers the effects in proportion to the user's comprehension. After enduring years of mockery, Theo has at last been bestowed with the ability to transform his life. Navigating the challenges of being considered a subpar student with insufficient perceived talent for magic has been a struggle for Theo, but that chapter is now firmly in the past. At this moment he decides to eat all the books he can. The scene shifts to the bustling school corridors, where students dash about, their laughter filling the air. In a classroom there stands Professor Vince with another man. They both reminisce about the past and how nice it was to have been young and free from the aches and pains of old age. The professor asks Vince if he will be staying at school during the following school break. Vince answers that due to the investment in his work, he has no other option but to stay. The professors ask if it is due to that student. That question seems to upset Vince. Suddenly a man comes through the door, asking for Professor Vince. He has been looking for him for a long time. Vince is displeased to see the man. The chubby man asks Vince about Theodore Miller, and inquires further about why is he not on the dropout list for this year. Vince, upset about the question, thinks to himself, that Theo is the son of a ruined aristocrat. He is always saying that he can't do magic and is just working on his theory. But what's the point of having all that theory in your head if you can't put it into practice? Every class he asks pointless questions, giving me a headache. If you're aware you don't have a natural talent, why put in all this effort? He ought to recognize his limitations and concentrate on learning his role. After contemplating Theo's situation, he answers the man. He said that he made Theo stay back a grade because he wanted to study more, and as a teacher, it is his job to guide and teach his students. Doing anything less than that would be an embarrassment to any professor. The chubby professor, being displeased by the answers, backs off, saying that he only asks cause he is organizing a list of personnel. He hastily retreats from the conversation, saying that he is hurry and has to go back to his work. Vince thinks to himself that Chubby is also a professor, yet he doesn't care about Theo. But Vince still believes in Theo.